See these two plastic bins? The kind you can grab from pretty much any hardware store? This is all you need to build an amazing composting machine. Seriously. This setup will take all your daily kitchen scraps and turn them into what gardeners literally call black gold. We're talking about one of the richest fertilizers your plants will ever get, and it costs next to nothing. So forget those pricey, complicated systems. Today I'm showing you step by step how to build a DIY worm bin that's simple, cheap, and works like a charm. It's a fantastic project for your garden, the planet, saving waste from landfills, and making something amazing out of it. It's way easier than you think, and by the end of this, you'll be ready to kick off your own vermicomposting adventure. The whole idea is called vermicomposting, which is really just a fancy way of saying we're letting worms do all the heavy lifting. But not just any worms. We're talking about a special kind called red wigglers. These aren't the regular earthworms you find in the garden. These guys are composting. They can chow down on their own body weight in food scraps. And what they leave behind? Pure gold. Worm castings packed with nutrients and good microbes that will make your plants, both indoors and out, absolutely explode with growth. Now I know what you're thinking. Won't it smell? Won't it attract bugs? Nope. I'm going to show you all the secrets to keeping a balanced, totally odor-free bin. And the best part? It doesn't matter if you have a huge yard or a tiny apartment balcony. This system works for anyone. So, if you're ready to slash your trash and give your soil a serious boost, let's get to it. Alright, let's get our gear together. The good news? The list is short and sweet. The heart of this whole setup is 2 plastic storage bins. You'll want one that's taller and one that's a little shorter so the tall one can nest right inside. The top bin is where the magic happens, and the bottom one is just there to catch any liquid runoff, which, by the way, is an amazing fertilizer people call worm tea. Just make sure the bins aren't see-through, because worms are shy and like it dark. You'll also need a drill for making some very important drainage and airflow holes. We'll get to that in a sec. For bedding, you don't need anything fancy at all. Shredded newspaper, torn-up cardboard, or even dead leaves from the yard are perfect. And of course, the worms. We need red wiggler worms, or Eisenia fetida if you want to get scientific. Lastly, round up some kitchen scraps to get the party started. Think fruit and veggie peels, coffee grounds, and crushed up eggshells. We'll chat more about what they love and what they hate in a bit. And that's it. Simple stuff for an incredible result. Okay, time to make some holes. This is the most hands-on part, and it's super important for keeping the worms happy and the bin smell-free, so don't be tempted to skip it. First, grab your taller bin, the future worm condo. We're going to drill a bunch of small holes in the bottom. A 1/8-inch drill bit is about right. Just space them out every couple of inches across the whole base. These are for drainage. We want things moist in there, but definitely not soaking wet. If it gets too waterlogged, the worms can't breathe through their skin and will literally drown. Nobody wants that. These holes let any extra water drip down into the collection bin. Next, we need some bigger holes for air. Switch to about a 1-inch drill bit and drill a few of these near the top rim of the bin, on at least 2 opposite sides. This is all about airflow. It gives the worms plenty of oxygen and keeps the bin from going anaerobic, which is the sciencey term for stinky. If you're worried about critters getting in through these bigger holes, just glue a small piece of vinyl screen over them. Easy fix. Once you're done drilling, give the bin a quick rinse to wash off any plastic bits. Then just pop the drilled bin inside the one without holes. And that's it. Construction is officially over. Told you it was easy. Our bin is built, so now it's time to make it a home. The bedding isn't just fluff, it's their habitat, their food source, and it's key to keeping the moisture level just right. Your best bet for bedding is anything rich in carbon, which is easy to find. I like to use a mix of shredded newspaper, just skip the glossy ads, and torn-up cardboard. You could also use dead leaves, coconut coir, or even some old compost. The idea is to make a fluffy, absorbent home for them. Now for the most critical part, moisture. You're aiming for the dampness of a wrung-out sponge. Worms breathe through their skin, so they need it to be damp, but if it's sopping wet, there's no oxygen. So, throw your shredded bedding into a bucket and add some water. Let it soak for a bit, then grab a handful and give it a good, hard squeeze. If water is streaming out, it's too wet. Just mix in more dry bedding. If it feels too dry, add a splash more water. Once the moisture is perfect, fill your top bin about 3/4 of the way with the bedding. Don't pack it down. Keep it nice and airy. Here's a pro tip. Toss in a handful of plain garden soil or finished compost. This introduces all the good microorganisms that will kickstart the whole process and make the worms feel right at home. The bin is prepped, the bedding is in. It's time to bring in the workforce. As I mentioned, these aren't your garden variety earthworms. Red wigglers are made for this. They live near the surface and absolutely love munching on decaying stuff, which makes them perfect for our bin. When your worms arrive, they'll probably be in a bag with some soil. Just gently dump the whole thing right on top of the bedding. Don't bother trying to bury them. Worms hate light, so they'll naturally start wiggling their way down into their new home all on their own. People always ask, how many worms should I start with? A pound of worms, which is about 1,000 of them, is a great starting point for a bin this size. They'll be able to handle about half a pound of food scraps a day. Just give your new crew about a day to get used to their new digs before you offer them their first meal. Let them explore and settle in. And just like that, your worm bin is officially alive. Before we get to the fun part, feeding them, if you're finding this step-by-step guide useful, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know you're enjoying the content and ensures you won't miss what's coming up next. I really appreciate the support. Okay, now that your worms have moved in, let's talk about what's on the menu. Okay, the worms have had a day to acclimate, so let's talk about food. Knowing what they can and can't eat is probably the most important part of keeping a healthy, pest-free, and non-stinky bin. First, the yes list. Worms go crazy for most fruit and veggie scraps. We're talking apple cores, banana peels, carrot tops, old lettuce, and coffee grounds, filter and all. They also love crushed eggshells, which add calcium and help keep the bin's pH balanced. Pro tip, chop up bigger scraps into smaller pieces. Now for the do not feed list. This is just as important. Never ever add meat, fish, or dairy to your bin. These things will rot, create horrible smells, and are basically a giant welcome sign for pests. Also, avoid anything really oily or greasy, because it can coat the worm's skin and make it hard for them to breathe. And while they can eat things like citrus and onions, only add them in tiny amounts because too much acid can throw off the whole system. For their very first feeding, start small. Take just a handful of scraps, and here's the golden rule. Bury it. Dig a little pocket in one corner of the bin, drop the food in, and cover it back up with a few inches of bedding. If you leave food sitting on top, you're asking for fruit flies and smells. Burying it lets the worms find it on their own time and keeps everything clean. Once you're up and running, taking care of the bin is shockingly easy. Your main gig is just feeding them and doing a quick check-in every week or so to make sure everything's humming along. First, keep an eye on that moisture. The bedding should always feel like a damp sponge. Since kitchen scraps have a lot of water, you might find you almost never have to add any. If things do start feeling a little dry, just give it a few spritzes with a spray bottle. On the flip side, if it seems too wet, or you notice a lot of liquid in the bottom bin, just mix in a generous amount of fresh dry bedding like shredded newspaper. As the worms eat the food and the original bedding, you'll need to replenish it. Every few weeks, just add a fresh, fluffy layer of shredded paper or cardboard right on top. This adds more carbon to the system and acts as a clean barrier to discourage any potential fruit flies. That's pretty much it. Feed them, check for moisture, and add some fresh bedding. You got this. After about 3 to 6 months, you'll open your bin and see that the bedding and food scraps you've been adding have vanished. In their place will be this dark, crumbly, earthy-smelling stuff. That, my friend, is the vermicompost. That's the black gold. It's harvest time. There are a few ways to separate the worms from the compost, but the easiest is the migration method. It's a clever little trick. Just push all the finished compost over to one side of the bin. Then, on the empty side, add fresh, damp bedding and some new food. Over the next week or two, the worms will do all the work for you, migrating out of the finished compost and over to the fresh food. Once you see that most of the worms have made the journey, you can just scoop out that beautiful finished compost. Don't sweat it if a few worms get mixed in. They'll be perfectly happy in your garden or houseplants. You can use this stuff by mixing it into potting soil, sprinkling it around your garden plants as a top dressing, or even brewing it into a worm tea for a liquid feed. Once you've harvested, fill the empty side back up with fresh bedding, and the whole cycle just keeps on going. And that's how you do it. a super efficient worm composting factory, made from a couple of plastic tubs. You now know how to build it, how to feed your worm crew, how to keep their home just right, and how to harvest the amazing fertilizer they make. You are officially ready to turn your kitchen trash into garden treasure and make a real dent in your environmental footprint. I really hope this guide has shown you just how easy and rewarding vermicomposting can be. It's an awesome way to reconnect with the natural cycles of decay and growth. If this was helpful, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe for more DIY projects.